Hello everyone, I hope you're having a wonderful summer break. Today's book selection is Found. It's book 1 in the series by Mrs Ptaszek. It wasn't there, and then it was. Later, that's how Angela Dupree would describe the airplane, over and over to investigator after another, until she was told never to speak of it again. But when she first saw the plane that night, she wasn't thinking about mysteries or secrets. She was wondering how many mistakes she could make without getting fired, how many questions she dare ask before her supervisor would explode. "That's it, you're too stupid to work at SkyTrails Air. Get out of here." Angela had used a Post-it note to write down the code for standby passengers who had received a seat assignment at the last minute, and she stuck it on her computer screen. She knew she had. But somehow between flight arrivals from St. Louis and the one leaving for Chicago, the Post-it had vanished. Any minute now, she thought, some standby passenger would show up at the counter, ask for a boarding pass, and Angela would be forced to turn to Monica once more and mumble, what's the code again? And then Monica, who had perfect hair and perfect nails and a perfect tan, had probably been born knowing all the SkyTrail codes, would grit her teeth and narrow her eyes and repeat the code in that slow, fake, patient voice she'd been using with Angela all night. The voice that said behind the words, "I know you're severely challenged, so I'll try not to speak faster than 1 word per minute. But you have to realize this is a real strain for me because I'm vastly superior to you." Angela was not challenged. She'd done fine at school and at SkyTrails orientation. It was just that this was her first actual day on the job, and Monica had been nasty from the very start. Every one of Monica's frowns and glares and insults kept making Angela feel more panicky and stupid. Sighing, Angela glanced up. She needed a break from staring at the computer screen, longing for her Post-it note. She peered out at the passengers crowding in the terminal, tired-looking families sprawled in seats, dark-suited businessmen sprinting down the aisles. Which one of them would be the standby flyer who rushed up to her counter and ruin Angela's life? Generally speaking, Angela had always liked people. She wasn't used to seeing them as threats. She forced her gaze behind a clump of passengers to a huge plate glass window on the other side of the aisle. It was getting dark outside, and Angela could see the runway lights twinkling in the distance. Runway, runway, she thought vaguely, and then she had blinked. Suddenly the lights were gone. No, she corrected herself, blocked. Suddenly there was an airplane between Angela and the runway lights, and the airplane rolled rapidly towards the terminal. Angela gasped. "What now?" Monica snarled, her voice thick with exasperation. "That plane," Angela said, "at gate 2B. I thought it—" What was she supposed to say? Wasn't there? Appeared out of thin air? "I thought it was going too fast and might run into the building," she finished in a rush, because suddenly it seemed true, too. She watched as the plane pulled to a stop, neatly aligned with the jetway. But it didn't. "No worries." Monica whirled on Angela. "Never," she began in a hush-filled voice of suppressed rage. "Never ever say anything like that. Weren't you paying attention to orientation? Never say you think a plane is going to crash. Never say a plane could crash. Never use the word crash. Do you understand?" "Okay," Angela whispered. "Sorry." But by some small, rebellious part of her brain was thinking, "I didn't use the word crash. Weren't you paying attention to me?" And if the plane really was going to run into a building, wouldn't SkyTrails want the employees to warn people to get out of the way? Just as rebelliously, Angela kept watching the plane parked at 2B. Instead of bending her neck back down to concentrate on her computer, Monica, she said, a few minutes, "should one of us go over there and help the passengers unload? Deplane?" She was proud of herself for remembering to use the official airline section word for unloading. Beside her, Monica rolled her eyes. "The gate agent responsible for 2B, she said tightly, "will handle the deplaning." Angela glared at 2B counter, which was silent and dark and completely unintended. There wasn't even a message scrolling across the LCD sign behind the counter to indicate the plane had arrived or where it even had come from. "Nobody's there," Angela said stubbornly. Frowning, Monica finally glanced up. "Great, just great," she muttered. "I always have to fix everybody else's mistakes." She began stabbing her perfectly manicured nails into the computer keyboard. Then she stopped mid-stab. "Wait, that can't be right." "What is it?" Angela asked. Monica was shaking her head. "Must be pilot error," she said, grimacing in disgust. "Some yahoo pulled up to the wrong gate. There's not supposed to be anyone at the gate until Cleveland flight at 9:30. Angela considered telling Monica that if SkyTrails had banned the word crash from their employees' vocabulary, that maybe passengers should be protected from hearing the words pilot error as well. But Monica was already grabbing her telephone, barking out orders. "Yeah, Bob, major screw up," she was saying. "You gotta get someone over here." "No, I don't know which gate it was supposed to go to. How would I know? Do you think I'm clairvoyant?" "No, I can't see the numbers on the plane. Don't you know it's dark out?" With her free hand, Monica was gesturing frantically at Angela. "Well, at least go open the door," she hissed. "You mean the door to the jetway?" Monica said, pointing. Angela hoped that some of the contempt on Monica's face was intended for Bob and not just her. Angela imagined meeting Bob someday, sharing a laugh at Monica's expense. Still dutifully, she walked over to 2B waiting area and pulled open the door to the hallway that led down the plane. Nobody came out. Angela picked a piece of lint off her blue skirt and then stood at attention, her back perfectly straight, just like the training videos. Maybe she couldn't keep track of the standby codes, but she was capable of standing straight. Still, no one appeared. Angela began to feel foolish standing there so alert by an open door that nobody was using. She bent her head and peeked down the jetway. It was desolated. And turned at such an angle that she couldn't see all the way down to the plane, to see if anyone had opened the door of the jet yet. She backed up a little and peered down the window, straight into the cockpit of the plane. The cockpit was dark, the windows blank, and that struck Angela as odd. She'd been on the job for only 5 hours, and she's been a little distracted, but she was pretty sure when planes landed, the pilots stay in the cockpit for a while to fill out paperwork or something. She thought at least they waited until the passengers were off before they turned out the lights. Angela peeked down the empty jetway once more and went back to Monica. "Of course there's still a plane at the gate. I can see it with my own eyes." Monica was practically screaming into the phone. She shook her head at Angela, and for the first time it was almost in a companion way, as if to say, "At least you know there's a plane there, unlike the other morons I have to deal with." Monica cupped her hand over the receiver and fumed to Angela. "The incompetence around here is unbelievable. The control tower says that the plane never landed, never showed up on the radar. The SkyTrails dispatchers say we're not missing a plane. Everything that was supposed to land in the past hour pulled up into the right gate, and all the other planes due to arrive within the next hour are accounted for. How could so many people lose a plane?" Or how could we find it? Angela thought. The whole situation was beginning to seem a little strange to her, otherworldly. But maybe that was just the function of being new to the job, of having spent so much time in concentrating on the computer and being yelled at by Monica. Maybe airports lost and found planes all the time, and that was just one of those things nobody had mentioned in the SkyTrails orientation. "Did anybody try to contact the pilot?" Angela asked cautiously. "Of course," Monica said, "but there's no answer. He must be on the wrong frequency." Angela thought of the dark cockpit, the way she hadn't been able to see through the windows. She decided not to mention this. "Should I go back and wait?" Monica nodded fiercely and went back to yell into the phone. "What do you mean this isn't your responsibility? It's not my responsibility either." Angela was glad to put a wide aisle and 2 waiting areas between herself and Monica again. She went back to the jet door by gate 2B. The slope hallway led down to the plane was still empty and colorful travel posters lined the walls. "SkyTrails, your ticket to the world," seemed jarringly bright. Angela stepped into the jetway. I'll just go down far enough to see if the door is open, she told herself. It may be a violation of protocol, but Monica won't notice, not when she's busy yelling at everybody else in the airport. At the bend of the ramp, Angela looked around the corner. She had a limited view, but she caught a quick glimpse of the flight attendant's little galley with neat stowed drink carts. Obviously, the jet door was standing wide open. She started to turn around, already beginning to debate with herself about whether she should report this information to Monica. And then she heard, what? A whimper? A cry? Angela couldn't exactly identify the sound, but it was enough to pull her down the aisle jetway. New SkyTrails employees saved passenger on the first day of the job, she thought to herself, imagining the praise and congratulations and maybe even a raise she'd be sure to receive if she was visualizing this real. She learned CPR in orientation session, and she knew basic first aid. She knew where the emergency phone in the airport was located, so she started walking faster, even running. On the side of the jet, she was surprised to see a strange insignia. Tycan Travel, it said. Some airline Angela had never heard of. Was that a private charter company, maybe? And then while she stared at the words, suddenly they changed into a familiar wing and the cloud symbol of SkyTrails. Angela blinked. That couldn't have happened, she told herself. It was just an optical illusion, just because I was running, just because I'm worried about whoever made that cry or that whimper. Angela stepped into the plane and she turned her head. First to the left, looking at the cockpit, the door also stood open. But the small space was empty, the instruments dark. Hello, Angela called, looking to the right now, expecting to see some flight attendant with perfectly applied makeup, or maybe some flight attendant and a pilot bent over a prone passenger, or maybe an old man suddenly struck down by a heart attack or a stroke, or at the very least passengers crowding the aisle, clutching laptops and stuffed animals brought from faraway grandparents' homes. Overtired toddlers crying, fatigued old women calling out to taller men, "Can you pull my luggage down from overhead for me? It's the red suitcase over there." But the aisle of this airplane was empty and silent as the cockpit. Angela could see all the way to the back of the plane. Not a single person stood in her view. Not a single voice answered her. Only then did Angela drop her gaze to the passenger seat. They stretched back 12 rows with 2 seats per row on the left side of the aisle and 1 on each of the right. She stepped forward, peering at all of them. 32 seats on this plane, and every single one of them were full. And each seat contained a baby. 13 years later.